It was the summer of 1989 in the quiet suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, a town where porch lights glowed warm and neighbors still waved goodnight. But one evening, that calm cracked forever. A mother named Laura Cole pinned another missing poster on a telephone pole. Her 9-year-old son Ethan had been gone for 6 months. His smile, frozen in that faded photograph, had become the town's haunting reminder of what safety used to feel like. Then one strange afternoon, a man driving home from work pulled into a gas station off Route 62. On the notice board beside the door, he noticed the same poster, Ethan Cole missing since September. But standing just a few feet away was a boy. Same blue eyes, same scar above the eyebrow. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. When Laura arrived minutes later, her knees almost gave out. The boy turned to look at her and smiled politely. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked, calm, confused, and unfamiliar. He looked exactly like her son, but he didn't recognize her at all. That moment shattered everything Laura believed about loss, hope, and truth. Because if this boy wasn't Ethan, then who was he? And if he was, what happened to the real one all those years ago? Columbus, Ohio, 1989. A season painted in amber and quiet laughter. The air smelled like fallen leaves and pumpkin spice, the kind of calm that wrapped itself around every family barbecue and Friday night football game. In the modest neighborhood of Brook Hollow, everyone knew the Coles. Laura, a nurse at the local clinic. David, her husband, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and a gentle heart. And their only child, Ethan. Ethan Cole was the kind of kid who made people smile without trying. 9 years old, freckles on his cheeks, a red bicycle that never seemed to stop spinning. He was the boy who helped neighbors rake leaves just to earn a cup of hot cocoa. Laura always said he had an old soul, kind, curious, and a little too trusting for his own good. But that fall carried a different kind of chill. David's night shifts had grown longer. Laura noticed unfamiliar cars parked on their street, and Ethan had started talking about a man with a camera near the playground. Someone he said looked friendly. No one thought much of it. Not then. The last photo ever taken of Ethan was snapped at the school carnival. A wide grin, a candy apple in hand, and the Ferris wheel glowing behind him. Hours later, that same picture became the image on every telephone pole in Ohio. From that day, Brook Hollow changed. Porch lights stayed on longer. Parents stopped letting their kids walk alone. And Laura Cole stopped sleeping altogether. She kept Ethan's room exactly as he left it. Toys lined on the shelves, sneakers by the door, and a nightlight glowing softly in the corner. Every night she whispered the same words into the silence. "Come home, baby. I'll find you." And for years, she believed she would.
Saturday, September 23rd, 1989. The day that split Laura Cole's life into before and after. The Brook Hollow Elementary Fall Carnival was the highlight of every kid's year. The schoolyard buzzed with laughter, the smell of popcorn and cotton candy filled the air, and a local band played familiar tunes under string lights. It was one of those evenings where parents felt safe enough to let their children roam, trusting the warmth of a small town to watch over them. Ethan had begged his mom for $1 more. He wanted to try the ring toss just one last time. Laura smiled, reached into her purse, and told him to meet her by the lemonade stand in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That's all it took for everything to fall apart. When she looked up, the crowd had thickened. Kids rushed past. Balloons popped in the air. And somewhere, a boy laughed, but it wasn't Ethan. Laura walked toward the ring toss booth. No sign of him. She called his name. Once, twice, louder each time. No answer. At first, she thought he'd wandered to the petting zoo, or maybe followed his classmate Tommy. But as dusk crept in and the carnival lights flickered on, panic began to bloom in her chest. His red bicycle was still parked near the fence. His jacket lay on the grass, half folded, like he meant to come back for it. By nightfall, the police were there, flashlights cutting through the field, volunteers forming search lines. David rushed home from work, his uniform still covered in oil, his voice cracking as he shouted his son's name into the dark. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts. One woman swore she saw Ethan near the cotton candy booth around 6:45 p.m. Another claimed a man in a brown jacket had been talking to him near the playground gate. No one saw where they went after. The next morning, a single clue surfaced. Ethan's backpack, found beside the creek behind the school. Inside were his notebook, a crumpled carnival ticket, and his favorite toy soldier, missing one arm. That discovery changed the tone of the search. What began as a hopeful hunt for a lost child turned into something darker. The FBI got involved. News vans lined the street. Laura sat by the window every night, staring at the empty driveway, waiting for a red bicycle that would never roll home again. Weeks turned into months. The town's optimism faded into whispers, theories about strangers, traveling carnivals, or worse. But Laura refused to believe her son was gone. A mother knows, she'd tell anyone who tried to comfort her. He's out there somewhere. And deep down, in some strange corner of her heart, she was right. Because years later, Ethan would return, but not the way anyone expected.
By October 1989, Ethan Cole's face was everywhere. On lampposts, bus stops, grocery store doors, even taped to the windows of passing cars. His photo, that bright smile under a mop of brown hair, stared back at a city that didn't know what to believe anymore. The words "missing, please help find Ethan Cole" had become part of everyday life in Columbus. The police worked tirelessly at first. Detective Mark Hensley, a calm, seasoned investigator from the Missing Persons Unit, took the case personally. He'd seen dozens of disappearances before, but something about this one felt off. Kids don't just vanish from crowded carnivals, he said during the first press conference. Someone saw something. Witnesses came forward in waves. Some remembered a man in a tan jacket with a camera. Others swore they saw Ethan near the parking lot talking to a stranger, but the leads twisted in circles. Nothing connected, no pattern, no motive. The carnival workers were questioned one by one. Every ride operator, food vendor, and volunteer. Background checks, alibis, phone records, all came up clean. Then the tips started turning strange. Calls poured in from nearby towns. Sightings of a boy who looked like Ethan at gas stations, truck stops, even rest areas along I-71. Each report ended the same way, false alarm. But Laura answered every phone call herself, clinging to hope with trembling hands. The media turned Ethan's case into a spectacle. Local news anchors spoke about it with solemn voices, showing that same photo again and again. Neighbors held candlelight vigils. Reporters asked Laura how she stayed strong. She'd just smile weakly and say, "Because he's my boy." Behind closed doors, the investigation stretched thin. Detective Hensley pushed for federal assistance, suspecting a child abduction ring, though there was no proof. Then came the anonymous letters, 3 of them, typed and unsigned, mailed to the Cole residence. Each one claimed Ethan was alive, but being kept somewhere safe. The handwriting analysis went nowhere. The paper had no fingerprints. As the months dragged on, funding ran out, and media interest shifted to newer stories. By the spring of 1990, the search had gone cold. Only Laura refused to let go. She spent her nights driving to nearby towns, knocking on doors, chasing rumors. Sometimes she'd swear she heard Ethan's laugh in the distance, just for a moment, before realizing it was only the echo of memory. Detective Hensley visited her once more, years later. He looked older, heavier, carrying the weight of unfinished cases. "We did everything we could," he said softly, but Laura didn't answer. Her walls were still covered with maps, photos, and strings connecting theories that only she could follow. And then, in the summer of 1996, 7 years after that carnival night, something happened that would shatter the silence all over again. A grocery store clerk called the police, claiming she'd seen a boy who looked exactly like Ethan Cole. The same blue eyes, the same scar. Detective Hensley almost didn't believe it. After so many false alarms, why would this one be different? Because this time, the boy wasn't on a security camera. He was standing right there, alive, confused, and staring at a missing poster with his own face on it. July 14th, 1996. the day the story everyone had forgotten came rushing back to life. It began inside a small grocery store on the edge of Columbus. A teenage clerk named Sarah was restocking cereal boxes when she saw a boy by the community board. He was around 15, tall for his age, with that same mop of brown hair and quiet eyes that carried something familiar, something haunting. He was staring at a faded poster pinned to the corkboard. The paper was yellowed and curling, but the face on it was unmistakable. It was him. When the police arrived, the boy looked terrified, cornered by questions he didn't understand. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked, pointing at the poster. "That's not me." But the resemblance was impossible to deny. The same birthmark on his wrist, the same scar above his eyebrow, even the way he tilted his head when nervous. It was Ethan Cole, down to every last detail. Laura was called immediately. She drove there in less than 20 minutes, hands shaking on the steering wheel. When she walked into that fluorescent-lit store, the world seemed to stop. The boy turned, confused, his brows furrowed. Laura froze. "Ethan?" she whispered. He blinked, polite but distant. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. I don't know you." That one sentence felt like a knife. The boy claimed his name was Ryan Mitchell, raised in a nearby town, homeschooled, and living with men he called Uncle Tom. But when detectives went to the address he gave, the house was abandoned. No records of a Ryan Mitchell existed before 1994. DNA testing became the next step. The results arrived a week later. 99.97% match. The boy was Ethan Cole. The impossible had happened. The missing child had returned, but without a single memory of his life before age 11. Reporters flooded the streets. The nation called it a miracle. But Laura knew something wasn't right. Ethan didn't remember his favorite songs, his school, not even his dog. He didn't recognize his old bedroom or his father's handwriting. He'd wake up screaming some nights, talking about lights in the woods and a room that smelled like metal. Detective Ansley reopened the case. The FBI stepped back in, searching for any link between Ethan's disappearance and known abduction cases. But there was nothing. No fingerprints, no suspects, no trace of who Uncle Tom really was. Then came the real twist. A photograph surfaced, blurry, grainy, taken at a county fair 2 years earlier. In the background stood a man with a brown jacket, and beside him, that same boy now claiming to be Ryan Mitchell. The question was no longer where Ethan had been. It was who he had been living as, and why someone wanted him to forget the truth. Laura's joy began to turn into fear, because every time she looked at her son, she saw something behind those calm blue eyes, something cold, something watching. And late one night, as rain lashed against the window, Ethan whispered from the doorway, "Mom, what if I was never supposed to come back?" When the news broke, America couldn't stop talking. The miracle boy from Ohio, they called him. Talk shows, newspapers, and radio hosts debated endlessly. Was it truly Ethan Cole or someone else entirely? Every expert had a theory, and every one of them sounded stranger than the last. Detective Hensley, though older now, wasn't ready to call it a miracle. He called it a riddle with a pulse. His office wall was covered again. Timelines, maps, old interviews. He even revisited the carnival footage from 1989. And that's when he noticed something no one had before. A shadowy figure behind the ring toss booth, holding what looked like a vintage video camera. The frame froze for just 1 second, a faint reflection in the lens. And in that reflection, a child, Ethan. But here's the impossible part. The timestamp didn't match the day Ethan disappeared. It was recorded 2 days after. So what happened between those days? Theory 1 spread like wildfire. Psychological trauma and selective amnesia. Some claimed the boy had been held captive, conditioned to forget who he was, a survival mechanism. But others argued no child could live years under another name without leaving a trace. Theory 2 took a darker turn, the government involvement theory. People whispered about a secret research site near the old airfield, where children were allegedly tested for cognitive control experiments during the early 90s. No official documents were ever found, but declassified reports hinted at missing juveniles matching Ethan's age group. And then
came the third most chilling theory, the double theory, that the boy found in 1996 wasn't Ethan at all, but someone made to become him, a look-alike, surgically altered or conditioned to replace the missing child for reasons no one dared to imagine. Conspiracy forums exploded, linking the case to sightings of identical children in neighboring states, all with fractured memories and fear of bright lights. Laura didn't believe in conspiracies, but she couldn't ignore the moments when Ethan seemed rehearsed, like he was remembering how to be himself in front of her. Sometimes, when she thought she wasn't looking, he'd trace the scar on his wrist and whisper under his breath, "It's not mine." Investigators reconstructed the night of his disappearance using witness statements, sound maps, and carnival layouts. One possible version showed Ethan being lured away by someone he trusted, the man with the camera. Another placed him near the creek, following strange lights before vanishing into the trees. Both scenes ended the same, silence. Hensley kept one photo pinned above his desk, the missing poster beside the 1996 grocery store snapshot. Same eyes, same angle, years apart. If this isn't Ethan, then why does the world want to believe it is? He muttered once. As the theories multiplied, Laura's reality began to crumble. The boy sleeping under her roof might be her son, or the perfect imitation of him. And in the dead of night, when thunder rolled across the sky, she swore she heard two voices whisper from his room. One said, "Mom." The other answered, "Don't tell her."
Autumn came again to Columbus, just as it had the year Ethan disappeared. The leaves outside the Cole house turned the same golden shade they had that week in 1989. Only now, time felt warped, twisted into something unrecognizable. Laura watched her son, or the boy she hoped was her son, sitting at the kitchen table. He stirred his cereal slowly, eyes distant, almost mechanical. The news had stopped covering the story months ago. The cameras left, the headlines faded, but the questions stayed, sharp and endless. DNA didn't lie, but people did. Detective Hensley came one final time. He carried a small envelope, results from a recent forensic ray analysis of Ethan's backpack found near the creek. A new technology, unavailable back then, revealed something shocking. Two distinct DNA traces. One was Ethan's. The other belonged to an unidentified adolescent male. When Hensley told Laura, she went pale. The boy in her house looked up from a spoon. "Does that mean I wasn't alone?" he asked softly. Laura wanted to answer, but the words caught in her throat. For years, she dreamed of this reunion, imagined hugs, tears, closure. But now it felt like she was living beside a stranger wearing her son's smile. That night, she found Ethan standing in the backyard, barefoot in the cold grass, staring toward the woods. "You ever remember anything?" she whispered. He hesitated. "Sometimes, flashes, a light, a voice, someone saying I had to go, that it wasn't safe to come back." He turned, tears glinting in his eyes. "Mom, what if I'm not him? What if he's still out there?" Laura stepped closer, trembling. "Then we'll find him, together." But as lightning flashed in the distance, she saw it. A faint burn mark on the side of his neck. A small, perfect circle, like the imprint of a machine. And for the first time, she didn't know if the boy before her needed saving, or if he was the reason Ethan was never found. Weeks later, Hensley retired, the file marked unresolved. Laura stopped answering calls. The house went quiet again, lights glowing through half-drawn curtains. Only one thing remained taped to the wall. That faded poster, Ethan Cole, missing since 1989. Below it, written in fresh ink, "Some returns aren't meant to be found." Years later, the story of Ethan Cole became one of those whispered legends parents tell each other when the night feels too still. A story about how hope can save you or destroy you. The Cole house still stands on Brookalo Lane, pink peeling, grass overgrown, the swing in the yard creaking softly when the wind moves through. Some say Laura still lives there, quiet and withdrawn. Others claim she moved away long ago, though lights flicker in the windows on stormy nights. Detective Hensley passed away in 2004, his final notes sealed in the archives of the Columbus Police Department. Among them was a single photograph, the 1996 grocery store image. On the back, written in fading ink, were 5 words he knew before she did. No one ever figured out what that meant. As for Ethan, or the boy who bore his face, he vanished again in 1999. No trace, no goodbye, just an empty room, broken window latch, and that same toy soldier missing one arm left on the pillow. Some people think he ran away, unable to live under a name that didn't belong to him. Others believe he was taken back, reclaimed by whatever shadow pulled him away the first time. But one thing remains certain. Sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. It watches, it waits, and when it finally knocks, it doesn't always bring answers, just echo. If you ever drive down Brookhellow Lane and see that house, the one with the flickering porch light, don't stop, don't look at the window, because maybe, just maybe, the boy who showed up in his own missing poster is still waiting for someone else to recognize him.